and welcome to Lift the Cup Fantasy, or LTC Fantasy as some call it. Today is our Week 22 strategy episode, where we're going to look at the schedule for the upcoming week and hopefully find you that edge to secure that win for you. Some things to note: the light nights are Monday with 4 games, Wednesday with 4 games, Friday with 5 games, and Sunday with 8 games. It's only a 2-game week for Seattle, and there's a number of teams that have 4 games this week, being Colorado, Detroit, Edmonton, Minnesota, Montreal, Nashville, New Jersey, the Islanders, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, Vegas, and Winnipeg. So we will focus on the Monday and Wednesday light nights. The Friday and Sunday light nights we'll cover later in the week in our Weekend Ads episode. And a couple of things to note is Anaheim does play both Monday and Wednesday, and Colorado plays on all 4 off nights this week. So if you can snag a Colorado player, that's definitely somebody to definitely give you an edge there. Then after we focus on Monday and Wednesday, we'll look at the remaining 4-game teams this week and players to add. That way it adds a little extra value when you are using one of your player ads. Don't forget to look into the description, because I will mark on there where to find Monday defensemen and forwards, Wednesday defensemen and forwards, and then the remaining 4-game team defensemen and forwards. That way, if you do need to come back in the episode later in the week to find that piece you need or get a different suggestion due to roster needs, trade deadline coming up, injuries, etc., it'll be a lot easier to find. And if you do subscribe, it will be again easier to find that video when you do need to find that piece. So we'll jump right into it. Some Monday defensemen. I look at Cam Fowler from Anaheim, owned in 39% of Yahoo leagues, plays on the second pairing and second power play unit, and he has 7 points in his last 8 games. Next one is Matt Grzelcyk from Boston, owned in 19% of Yahoo leagues. He also plays on the second pairing and second power play unit. He only has 4 points in the last 10 games, but he does have 13 blocks, so there's a little bit of added value there. And he does tend to be streaky. He really had that hot streak in late January, early February there. Next one's Eric Johnson from Colorado, only owned in 34% of Yahoo leagues, plays on the second pairing, and is getting second unit power play time. He has been pointless in the last 7 games, but he does add some extra value. In those 7 games that he was pointless, he got 13 shots on goal, 15 hits, and 11 blocks. So even if he doesn't get you a point, he'll definitely help you out with the secondary metrics there. Next one's Evan Bouchard from Edmonton, owned in 44% of Yahoo leagues, plays on the second pairing and second power play unit. Once in a while, him and Barry flop between first power play, second power play, but he has 5 points in the last 6 games with 16 shots on goal. Next one's Jared Spurgeon from Minnesota, owned in 57% of Yahoo leagues, plays on the second pairing and top power play unit, and he's been hot, having 7 points in his last 7 games. Next one's Chris Weidman from Montreal, available everywhere, 0% owned, plays on the third pairing, but man's at first power play unit, and he has 6 points in his last 6 games played. And with Sherratt being shipped out, I do see his ice time increasing. That for every Montreal defenseman. Just like the next one, Jeff Petrie, owned in 55% of Yahoo leagues, plays on the top pairing now and second power play unit, and he has 5 points in his last 8 games with 19 shots on goal and 21 blocks. Last one's Matthias Ekholm from Nashville, owned in 26% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that second pairing and second power play unit, and he has 4 points in his last 7 games, and in those 7 games he has 20 shots on goal, so definitely a little bit of extra value there. We'll jump right into some Monday forwards. Trevor Zegras from Anaheim, listed as center left winger, owned in 51% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that top line and top power play unit, and he has 5 points in his last 7 games, so decent production. And he's also had 24 shots on goal, so averaging 3.5 shots a game. Next one from Anaheim's Adam Henrique, listed as center left winger, only owned in 12% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that second line and second power play unit, and he's been hot, having 7 points in his last 6 games to go along with 16 shots on goal. Next one is Craig Smith from Boston. He's been kind of a hidden hot streak there. He's listed as a right winger, owned in 15% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that third line and second power play unit, and he has 8 goals and 1 assist in just his last 7 games. So over a goal per game, and in that he has 20 shots on goal, so basically 3 shots a game. So definitely worth streaming right now. Next one's Charlie Coyle from Boston, listed as center right winger, only owned in 11% of Yahoo leagues. He also plays in that third line with Smith and the second power play unit, and he has 6 points in his last 5 games. Actually, last game he did play on the top line because Bergeron was out, but as soon as he's back, he'll be back down to the third line again. Next one's Valery Nichushkin, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 22% of Yahoo leagues, is up on that top line with Landeskog out and top power play unit. And in that first game when he was up on the top line, he had 2 points, so I definitely see that trend continuing and being worth streaming. Next one's Andrei Burakovsky, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 63% of Yahoo leagues. So his ownership is up there, but so are a lot of Avalanche players. And he plays on the second line, second power play unit, and he has 9 points in his last 11 games. Next one's Kyler Yamamoto from Edmonton, listed as a right winger, owned in 5% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that top line with McDavid and top power play unit, and he's really shone since going up with McDavid. He has 4 goals and 3 assists in his last 4 games. Next one's Joel Eriksson Ek from Minnesota, listed as a center, owned in 48% of Yahoo leagues. Center's at third line, but is on the top power play unit, and he has 4 points in his last 5 games with 12 shots on goal. Next one from Minnesota is Matt Boldy, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 30% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that second line and second power play unit, and he has 8 points in his last 11 games, which is pretty nice production for the rookie. Speaking of solid rookies, look at Cole Caulfield from Montreal, listed as left winger, right winger, up to 58% owned. People are taking notice. He's on the second line now and top power play unit, and he's been living up to the hype the last month and a bit here. He has 17 points in his last 12 games played. Next one from Montreal is Mike Hoffman, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 13% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that top line and second power play unit, and he's been picking it up, having 6 points in his last 7 games. Last one from Montreal is kind of a sleeper in Rem Pitlick, listed as center, left wing, and right wing, only owned in 1% of Yahoo leagues, but center's that second line that Caulfield's on and plays on the second power play unit, and he's had 7 points his last 5 games. Next one is Ryan Johansson from Nashville, owned in 28% of Yahoo leagues, listed as a center, currently centering that top line and top power play unit, and he has 9 points in his last 9 games played. Next one is from Vegas, Chandler Stevenson, listed as center, left wing, and right wing, owned in 49% of Yahoo leagues, currently centering the second line and top power play unit. He has 3 points in his last 4 games played, so not too bad, but Vegas has been hurting and struggling to score goals, and Stevenson all season has been the most consistent forward outside of since they got Eichel. We'll move over to Wednesday D-Men, and I look at Caleb Jones from Chicago, unowned everywhere, 0% owned. Plays on the second pairing, and he's been quite a surprise the last 3 weeks. He has 8 points in his last 9 games played. Another one from Chicago is Jake McCabe, owned in 1% of Yahoo leagues. So might be slightly harder to find than Jones at 0, but he's paired up with him on the second pairing, and he has 5 points in his last 4 games played, and in those 4 games he has 10 hits and 9 blocks. Next one is Mike Matheson from Pittsburgh, owned in 6% of Yahoo leagues, currently is on the top pairing and second power play unit, and he has 3 points in his last 4 games with 10 shots on goal and 9 hits. Next one is Brad Hunt. He's available everywhere, 0% owned, from Vancouver, on that third pairing and second power play unit, and he has 5 points in his last 8 games played, which is alright, so he might be worth streaming on a light night for sure. Next one is TJ Brody from Toronto, owned in 10% of Yahoo leagues, on that second pairing, and he has 6 points in his last 6 games played. Next one from Toronto is Rasmus Sandin, owned in 3% of Yahoo leagues. He's on that third pairing and second power play unit, and he's been really good the last little bit here, having 4 points in his last 5 games. The last one's Damon Severson from New Jersey, owned in 36% of Yahoo leagues, is on that top pairing and top power play unit, and that's been for a while now since Hamilton's been back, and he hasn't been moved aside into the second pairing or anything. He only has 6 points in his last 11 games, so decent production. He's over half point per game, but with him still being on that first pairing and first power play unit, I definitely think he's worth streaming on a light night, especially when you have Hughes and Bratt up front. We'll jump into some Wednesday forwards. I look at Dylan Strome from Chicago, listed as center right winger, owned in 22% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that top line and top power play unit, and he's been super hot lately, having 11 points in his last 7 games played. And in those 7 games, he's averaging 3 shots on goal, 21 shots on goal. Next one from Chicago is Jonathan Toews, listed as a center, owned in 24% of Yahoo leagues, currently on that second line and second power play unit, and he has 5 points in his last 6 games played. Next one's Brandon Hagel. Now of the Tampa Bay Lightning got traded earlier today. I'm recording this on Friday. But Tampa Bay also has 4 games this week, so he's definitely worth looking at when Tampa plays. He's owned in 5% of Yahoo leagues. Not sure how he'll slot in with Tampa, so I don't know the lines or power play yet, obviously. But he has 7 points in his last 5 games played. Go over to Buffalo, look at Tage Thompson, listed as center, left winger, and right winger, owned in half the leagues out there. He's on that top line, top power play unit, and he has 7 points in his last 11 games played, which is still decent production considering that line was so hot earlier. It's kind of been cold lately, but he's been consistent, still getting 7 points in the last 11. And in those 11 games, he's had 48 shots on goal, so firing a ton of rubber at the net. So if that's counted, definitely look at him. Next one's Peyton Krebs, listed as a center left winger, only owned in 1% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that second line in Buffalo and the top power play unit, and he has 3 goals in his last 3 games played. A couple others to consider is Alec Tuck and Jeff Skinner, because when that line was rolling, man, that might be somebody to look at because they were getting a ton of points there in a short period of time. Next one's Evan Rodriguez, listed as center right winger, only owned in 29% of Yahoo leagues. He's up on that top line with Crosby and second power play unit. He only has 2 points in the last 4 games, but he does have 17 shots on goal. And earlier in the season, when he was up on Crosby's line, he was scoring a bunch. So definitely look at streaming him since he's back up there. Next one's Jeff Carter, listed as center right winger, only owned in 30% of Yahoo leagues. Currently on the third line and second power play unit, and he has 4 points in his last 5 games played. Next one from Vancouver is Tanner Pearson, listed as a left winger, only owned in 5% of Yahoo leagues, is on that top line and second power play unit, and it's been going on a month now. He has 12 points in his last 12 games played. Next one is Michael Bunting from Toronto, listed as a left winger, owned in 57% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that top line and second power play unit. He's definitely benefited this year playing with Matthews and Marners. He's been pointless in the last 3. Mind you, Matthews has been suspended. He'll be back from suspension. But before that, he had 14 points in the previous 8 games. Next one's Alex Kerfoot, listed as center, left wing, and right wing, owned in 15% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that second line and second power play unit, and he has 5 points in his last 4 games played. Last one from Toronto's Andre Casse, listed as a right winger, only owned in 3% of Yahoo leagues, and he's on that third line and second power play unit. He's scored in 3 straight games, and overall he has 6 points in his last 6 games played. We'll go over to New Jersey and look at Jesper Bratt, listed as left winger, right winger. His ownership's higher at 63%, but still available in over a third of the leagues. Plays on that top line and top power play unit, and he has 7 points in his last 6 games played. Few others from New Jersey is Nico Hischier, listed as a center, owned in 31% of Yahoo leagues, centers at second line and top power play unit, and he has 9 points in his last 8 games played. Next one's Dawson Mercer, listed as center right winger, owned in 6% of Yahoo leagues, on that second line and second power play unit. He only has 1 goal in the last 4 games, but before that he had 5 points in the previous 5, so hopefully you can catch him at the right streak. Next one's Yegor Sharangovich, listed as center, left winger, and right winger, only owned in 11% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that top line and second power play unit, and he has 5 points in his last 5 games played. So we'll jump into some defensemen that have 4 games this week but don't play Monday or Wednesday, and look at Ryan Pulock from the Islanders, only owned in 22% of Yahoo leagues, plays on the second pairing, and second power play unit, and he has 7 points in his last 7 games to go along with 15 blocks, so over 2 blocks a game. Next one is Rasmus Ristolainen, owned in 32% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that second pairing in Philly and second power play unit, and he has 3 points in his last 4 games, and in those 4 games he has 17 hits, so over 4 hits a game and 10 blocks. Last one is Josh Morrissey from Winnipeg, owned in 48% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that top pairing and top power play unit, and he has 4 points in his last 5 games played to go along with 14 shots on goal. So we'll go into some forwards that have 4 games this week but don't play Monday or Wednesday. We'll start it off in Detroit with Lucas Raymond, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 52% of Yahoo leagues, plays on the top line and top power play unit, and he has 7 points in his last 9 games played. Another one from Detroit to consider is Philip Zadina, listed as left winger, right winger, only owned in 2% of Yahoo leagues, so should be pretty easy to find him, on that second line and second power play unit, and he has 3 points in his last 5 games played. Going over to the Islanders, there's quite a few that are on some streaks now. Anders Lee is one of them, listed as left winger, owned in 40% of Yahoo leagues, plays on the top line and top power play unit, and he has 9 goals and 1 assist in only his last 6 games played, so averaging a goal and a half a game. Next one's Brock Nelson, listed as a center, owned in 24% of Yahoo leagues, is centering that top line and top power play unit, and he has 8 points in his last 8 games to go along with 23 shots on goal. Few others from the Islanders, Jean-Gabriel Pageau, listed as a center, owned in 27% of Yahoo leagues, on that third line, but is on the first power play unit, and he has 11 points in his last 11 games played. Sticking with the Islanders, Anthony Beauvillier, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 8% of Yahoo leagues, completes the top line and is on the top power play unit, and he has 7 points in his last 6 games played. We'll look at Kyle Palmieri, listed as left winger, right winger, only owned in 6% of Yahoo leagues, is on the third line but second power play unit, and he's on a 6-game point streak right now where he has 4 goals and 3 assists. Last one from Islanders, finally finished, there's a bunch, is Josh Bailey, listed as left winger, right winger, only owned in 3% of Yahoo leagues, is on that third line and second power play unit, and he has 7 points in his last 6 games played. We'll go over to Philly and look at Derek Brassard, listed as center, left winger, only owned in 1% of Yahoo leagues, is centering that second line and is on the top power play unit, and he has 4 points in his last 4 games played. Last one from Philly's Cam Atkinson, listed as a right winger, only owned in 56% of Yahoo leagues, is on that second line and top power play unit, and he has 7 points in his last 6 games played. We'll finish it off with Winnipeg and Paul Stastny, listed as center, left winger, only owned in 8% of Yahoo leagues, has been on that top line for a while now and second power play unit, and he's been hot, having 9 points in his last 9 games played. Hope you did enjoy the episode. We'll be out later this week with our waiver wire episode and our weekend ads episode. It'll be after the trade deadline, of course. And if you did like today's episode, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and remember that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. And good luck in Week 22, fantasy owners.